Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating podcast called Chojuun Podcasty. It asks a pretty powerful question. What if the point of our journey isn't to find all the right answers, but to discover a completely new way of seeing the world? It all kicks off with this wild idea. The podcast asks us to think about this. What if the reality you can touch and see isn't some fixed, solid thing? What if, instead, we're all just walking through a vast cosmic thought, a dream being dreamt by something much bigger than us? So, if we're living in a kind of dream, how do we make sense of it? Well, we build things. We build structures, we use knowledge, science, facts, all these academic theories to construct our understanding of the world. But what if these huge structures are way more fragile than we think? The podcast has this brilliant metaphor for this kind of knowledge: sand castles. Think about everything we know for sure. It's like building this intricate, beautiful sandcastle on the beach. It looks solid, it's complex, but it's built on a shore where the tide is always coming in. And with one new wave of information, one new perspective, the whole thing can just wash away. And this gets us to a really crucial point. The world we experience is basically a collection of stories. The reality of any single event, a moment in history, a personal win or loss, it's never just one thing. It's more like a fabric woven from 1,000 different points of view. Okay, so if reality is a story, then who's the main storyteller on this whole journey? Well, it turns out it's our own mind. Just think about it for a second. There's a voice in your head right now, isn't there? It's narrating this very moment. It's always on, always analyzing, always commenting. So where does that endless stream of thought actually come from? The podcast has a perfect name for this: chattering. It's the mind's main tool. Its job is to chop up the seamless flow of life into little, manageable pieces. It slaps labels on everything: good, bad, right, wrong, me, you. That's how it builds the story of our lives, piece by piece. And this really highlights the potential trap of all that mental chatter. This endless need to dissect everything, to break the entire universe into tiny little bits so we can understand it. Well, it can start to feel like a form of madness. It creates this illusion that we're all separate, when there might actually be this deep, underlying connection. The source material gives this fantastic example. Imagine two cells, right? They're born from the exact same origin, but one gets told, "You're a liver cell," and the other gets told, "You're a stomach cell." Pretty soon, they've developed entirely different worlds, with their own languages, their own rules, and they completely forget they came from the same place, that they share this fundamental connection. Okay, so if our reality is a shifting sandcastle, and our minds are just endlessly chattering, where can we find anything solid? This brings us to a much deeper concept: the nature of truth itself. This distinction is right at the heart of the podcast's whole philosophy. On one side, you've got reality. That's the story, the chatter, the world that's always changing and full of descriptions. But on the other side, you have truth. And truth is silent. It's constant. It's the center point that doesn't have any labels at all. So truth isn't just another fact to add to your sandcastle of knowledge. It's not something you find, it's a state you arrive at. It's that perfectly silent, balanced core that you can only access when all the mind's judgments, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, finally fall away. And this brings us to the most fascinating twist of all. If pure truth is this perfect, silent, symmetrical state, then how does life, with all its noise and motion and beautiful chaos, even begin? To explain this, the podcast offers this simple but really profound metaphor. Imagine a mole on a person's face. If that mole were in the absolute perfect center, in a state of perfect symmetry, there'd be no story, no movement. It would just be static, like a statue. But it isn't in the perfect center, is it? It's just a tiny bit off. And that small, almost unnoticeable imperfection, that slight deviation from perfect balance, well, that's the beginning of everything. Look at how this unfolds. That tiny shift from the center creates asymmetry. That asymmetry gives birth to a sense of self, an I, that feels separate from the whole. And from that I, boom, the chattering starts, the stories get spun, and the entire journey of a life is set in motion. So the very thing we might judge as a flaw is actually the vessel that holds our spirit. It's this unreasoned, beautiful break from perfection that gives our life its unique course. Our entire story is drawn from this one tiny deviation. And embracing this journey, this beautiful deviation, that's exactly what Choco and Podcasty invites its listeners to do. Look, this podcast isn't for people who want fixed answers or a new set of rules to live by. It's for the traveler, the explorer. It's for the person who gets excited by the idea of discovering new territories within their own mind. So the final invitation is this: to practice seeing the world not as a problem to be solved or a machine to be taken apart, but as a landscape to be witnessed, to just be present inside the dream, whatever it might bring. And this leaves us with a final, really liberating question to think about. We don't really know what we're creating with our lives, do we? Or what purpose we serve in the grand scheme of things. So why do we take it all so personally? Perhaps we aren't the authors of the story at all, but simply the words through which the universe tells it.